to the channels?
I'll do that behind the scenes
Okay. All right.
while they're started. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, to my distinguished co-moderator and panelists, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Hector. I'm the advisor for communication and information in the UNESCO Regional Office for the Caribbean. Firstly, thank you for your patience. We've been having a few technical difficulties, some things which should have been done yesterday. Unfortunately, due to the earthquake, there's been a bit of upset. Anyway, I'm sure that we will have a very informative and also very engaging session today. And so, of course, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to our webinar, Harnessing and Scaling Caribbean MIL Experiences and Initiatives. As you know, we're currently in the Global Media and Information Literacy Week, which runs each year from 24th to 31st October. And so today's webinar is part of that global celebrations. Now, as you know, media and information literacy skills are really essential for equipping the populations of the Caribbean with the skills, competencies, and also the attitudes which are necessary for digitally transforming school, work, and leisure settings. MIL, as you know, enables citizens to take advantage of the opportunities of the digital world, while at the same time enabling them to develop resilience to challenges such as disinformation, the so-called fake news, threats like scamming, phishing, and other potentially harmful online content. Now, across the Caribbean and Latin America, there are really a number of pioneering and really outstanding MIL initiatives which are happening today. And well, the goal of today's session is really simply to foster a sort of cross-fertilization, the sharing of experiences, and supporting learning between these two subregions and within, of course, the regions by sharing insights and best practices. And by encouraging networking and knowledge transfer, we expect that these sessions will help to amplify the impact of these already excellent initiatives. So during our session, the panelists and of course the moderators, we will focus on three main areas. Firstly, as I mentioned, learning from each other. That's really key. Secondly, we'll be looking at ways to improve, replicate, and scale up these existing initiatives. And thirdly, we want to strengthen networking, partnership building, and collaboration, both within each of the subregions and between the two subregions. Now, before introducing my co-moderator, let me just provide some housekeeping and online etiquette that will ensure the smooth running of today's meeting. Natalie, could you please share the slide on the online meeting etiquette, please? Now, as you may realize, let's see. Natalie?
Yes, I'm coming.
Okay. All right. One moment, please. So this meeting is supported by simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a sort of a globe-shaped icon, and this will allow you to select your preferred languages. Now, I'm asking that everyone, you keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking. If your bandwidth allows, it would be really awesome for you to have your videos on, particularly when you're speaking. This, of course, helps to build engagement between all of us. Whenever you speak, please introduce yourself. Tell us your name, the organization that you are with. Tell us about your role and perhaps the country from which you're connecting. Please turn off your mobile phones. Please avoid distractions. This will ensure that you gain maximum benefit from the sessions. Of course, as we know, the technology is not perfect. So if you get disconnected, please just log on and you can just type into the chat whatever problems you might be facing so that we can try to address them as best as we can. So with that said, I now have great pleasure in introducing my co-moderator, who is Ms. Sylvia Basher. So Sylvia is the representative for Latin America and the Caribbean on the International Steering Committee of the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance. Sylvia is an Argentinian expert in the field of media and information literacy. She has served as a consultant. She has participated in numerous conferences and workshops across Latin America, the Caribbean, United States, and Europe. So she's really an international expert. Sylvia is also an award-winning journalist, specializing in culture and education, and the author of 2 books. The first, Navigating Among Cultures, and the second one, Tattooed by the Media. She's also the founder and director of the NGO Las Otras Voces, Comunicación para la Democracia, which was recognized with the UNESCO Mill Alliance Award for Media and Information Literacy. Sylvia, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Paul. I really feel proud to be here to share this space, this conversation with very powerful women. This is very important for me to see how many women are working and are trying to bring experience and to share and to build bridges among different people. And of course, with Felipe Chivas, who is a friend, an old friend. He used to be in this position. He worked a lot, and really it's a pleasure for me to be here. After your words, Paul, is not a lot of I can say, because you synthesize all we were talking about. What I would like to bring here is to think all this media information literacy challenge as part of a very deep cultural transformation. Why we need to work on this? Because the world is changing, humanity is changing. We didn't solve the previous problems, and we have new and complex problems. So I think that is a new opportunity to build a better, a justice and equal world. And we have the compromise to bring all the citizenship, the skills they need to be really citizenship, to make their decision with information, with very certain information. Now we are living in a new challenge because the artificial intelligence, the generative artificial intelligence is bringing us a new scenario. And also we need to think about it. And it's not the responsibility of one person or of one institution. It's all together, trying to understand, trying to make experience and to share it. So it's why I really want to thank you, Paul. You know how much I recognize your knowledge, your generosity, and I have all the intention during this panel and also during this responsibility, that means the representative of Latin America and the Caribbean in the Mill Alliance from UNESCO, to help everybody to be civilized and to strengthen our experience, because as Paul said, we are pioneers on these issues in our region. So once again, thank you. And I am here to share this obviously marvelous space.
All right, thank you so much, Sylvia, for those very generous comments. And now we turn to the real stars of today's show, and we'll be introducing our 4 very distinguished panelists. I'll be introducing the first 2 persons, and then Sylvia will introduce the latter 2. And our first panelist is, our first speaker will be Ms. Desalyn Daniels, and she is a media and communication professional with a decade of experience in journalism and public relations. She spent a number of years in the Guyanese media landscape as a journalist and editor, and this has led to a number of awards, such as the PAHO World Health Organization and United Nations Media Awards. Desilon is also a 2019-2020 Chevening alumnus, and she graduated from the University of East Anglia with a Master's of Arts in Media and International Development. She's currently the advocacy coordinator with the Public Media Alliance, which is the largest global association of public service media organizations. For those of you who are not aware, the Public Media Alliance, it was formerly the Commonwealth Broadcasting Association. Now, our second very distinguished speaker is none other than Ms. Sonia Gill. Sonia is a multifaceted professional with experience in law, development, academia, journalism, and media regulation. She's currently the Secretary General of the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, CBU, and she's also the first woman to hold this position. Sonia is a distinguished graduate of the University of the West Indies and the University of London. Her career has included roles as a journalist at the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, service as the multi-country manager and head of programs for UNOPS, United Nations Operations in the Caribbean, and also assistant executive director of the the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica. Sonia has made significant contributions to the development of conduct standards policies for broadcast media in the English-speaking Caribbean, particularly the Children's Code for Programming. I now turn over to Sylvia to introduce the remaining two speakers. Sylvia, over to you.
And then Ms. Kiran Maharaj, President and co-founder of the nonprofit Media Institute of the Caribbean and Caribbean Investigative Journalist Network, the region's first and only investigative multimedia news website. She is media owner and managing director of Caribbean Lifestyles, Communication, Media and Networks, including the world's first radio station for women based in TNT, Heartbeat Radio 104.1 FM. Her background is in management, media strategy, marketing, and journalism, including certification from Harvard Business School and a fellowship in broadcast leadership and management from the National Association of Broadcasters in Washington, D.C. In April 2019, was the United States Department and the U.S. Embassy in Trinidad presented her with the Women of Courage Award. And then Professor Dr. Felipe Chivas Ortiz is an associate professor in the University of Sao Paulo. He is co-leader of the UNESCO Gown and Town Mill Cities and actively participated in the creation of UNESCO Mill Cities Network. He has been closely involved as an organizer and speaker in UNESCO's Global Mill Week and World Press Freedom Day international ceremonies. Felipe is the author of 29 books published in several languages in the field of smart cities, mill cities, MIL cities, communication, creativity, entrepreneurship, and innovation. He is also one of the developers of the MIL Cities Metric Smartphone app. In recognition of this outstanding and pioneer contribution to MIL cities, he received the Leader Award for Vocation.
So thank you very much. And without any further ado, we will now move and listen to our first panelist, Ms. Desilon Daniels. If we can bring up her presentation, please, that would be fantastic.
Natalie, could we please go to the first slide? I think you're on the 5th one currently. It's all the way back, please.
I'm sorry, 1 minute, my machine is frozen.
That's no problem. I can share my screen.
I'll stop
Maybe.
sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Can everyone see my screen? Let me just figure out.
Yes, we are seeing the screen.
Okay, great. I'll just try to figure out how to get my notes as well. Okay, so good morning, everyone again. Hi, my name is Desalon Daniels. I'm the Advocacy Coordinator with the Public Media Alliance, and today it's my pleasure to speak about the Media Literacy, Disinformation, and Misinformation in the Caribbean Situation Report. Now, the Situation Report was developed as part of a wider project, which was implemented in 2022 by the Public Media Alliance and our partners. But for those of you who may not know, I'll just tell you a little bit about the PMA. So the Public Media Alliance is a UK-based nonprofit that serves as the largest global association of public service media organizations. Our members span more than 50 countries and include public broadcasters that you may know, such as the BBC in the UK, PBS in the US, and regionally, it includes RJR Gleaner Communications Group in Jamaica, CCN TV6 in Trinidad and Tobago, Radio Turks and Caicos, and NCN Guyana. I will say from my perspective, the development of the Situation Report was really enjoyable and informative. At the time, the project was led by a colleague of mine who's now left. Her name was Jasmine Chandler. She's in one of the photos, like at the top right, third from the back standing there. So some of you might know Jazz, and I supported Jazz on this project. What I'll do first is just give you a quick rundown on the overarching project so that I can then contextualize the situation report. So about the project. Firstly, why? In the Caribbean, mis and disinformation have increased across the region. Particularly, we saw this happen during the COVID pandemic, but it happens during natural disasters and crises. And mis and disinformation pose a threat not just to the regional media environment, but also to the lives and the well-being of the citizens. Now, improved media and information literacy is necessary, and it's a pivotal way of tackling disinformation in society, along with trust in verified independent news and citizen engagement. Meanwhile, the potential for collaboration in the Caribbean media landscape remains relatively untapped. The project was, of course, implemented by the Public Media Alliance with support from UNESCO IPDC and the UNESCO Cluster Office for the Caribbean, and in partnership with the Media Institute of the Caribbean and the Association of Caribbean Media Workers. For some activities, we had additional partners such as the Caribbean Broadcasting Union and Article 19. The project ran from, December 2021 to December 2022, with most of the activities occurring between June and November 2022. And where? Now, the developing a situation report and action plan on media and information literacy in the Caribbean project was implemented, as the name suggests, in the Caribbean, but more specifically, the project set out to target 10 Caribbean countries. So the Bahamas, Barbados, Cayman Islands, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, Montserrat, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, and Turks and Caicos. Now, the wider project's final objective was to contribute towards improved media and information literacy in the Caribbean by laying the foundation for more careful reporting, fact-checking, transparency regarding media ownership, and increased regional collaboration. How did we try to meet this objective? Firstly, we split the project across 3 activities, and the first of the activity, which I'll be speaking about today, is the situation report and analysis of media literacy, disinformation, and trust in news across the Caribbean. And the report also included a study on the feasibility of a Caribbean-wide trusted news initiative. Secondly, we had a 2-day virtual workshop for journalists to reinforce their capacities and their skills and to improve the ability of news media to promote media literacy and combat disinformation. The workshop was also used to develop an 8-point action plan, which I believe you'll be hearing more about later today. And finally, we had a hybrid event to discuss dis and misinformation, media literacy, and the feasibility of the Caribbean-wide trusted news project. From the project, we're proud to have produced a situation report and an action plan, both of which you can find on the PMA website. And to find out more about this project, because I can speak quite a bit about it, I just ask you to visit this link, or you can scan the QR code and you'll see the publications and any other articles that we have about the project at this link. Now, to go in more specifically about the situation reports, I'll be narrowing my focus on the report, and I'll be speaking about the implementation and challenges of this initiative and my personal insights as someone who worked on the situation report. When it comes to the resources, we have to consider the human, material, and technological resources that went into implementing the report's development. The project as a whole was primarily virtual, and that certainly shifted the priority of our resources to be more people-focused. Right off the bat, we knew we needed strong partners in the region who would help us build connections with people, especially to do so quickly and going past the barriers of geography and having to do everything online. We needed partners who were perhaps already working towards similar goals, who were independent, trusted, and demonstrated strong values, and who had connections with our primary beneficiaries, which in this case were media professionals. So one of the first things we did, if not the first thing that we did, was retain project facilitators.
Mantener los proyectos.
So if I,
Entonces,
I'm sorry, does someone have a question?
¿alguien tiene una pregunta?
Oh, okay, just translation happening. So if I recall correctly, MIT and ACM came on our radar through recommendations by media experts we previously worked with in the region. So that's how we came to have Kiran from the MIC and Nazima Ragabir from the ACM as our project facilitators. Now, PMA has also historically enjoyed a good relationship with the CBU, and we engaged them quite early on about the project. From there, the human connections on the project spread a bit like a net. We, for instance, had our facilitators seeking out and recommending researchers for the situation report, and we had our researchers recommending interviewees and survey respondents to contribute towards the report. Besides the human resources, as I said, the project was entirely online or almost entirely online. So that meant that there was no way to avoid the technological resources, which meant we also tried to use more interactive software, such as like Typeform, and Slido. So specifically for the situation report, one, Zoom was king for the interviews as part of the research. And secondly, the surveys that were conducted as part of the research were done so using SurveyMonkey and Google Forms. Now, I'll speak about the challenges and what I wish I knew. I will say hindsight, of course, is 2020. Of course, there were challenges with implementation. And while the use of our human and technological resources were our strengths, they did come with some challenges. So one big challenge we had was finding the people for the job. The project initially targeted 10 countries, as I said at the top of my presentation. However, due to the unavailability of researchers in some jurisdictions, health issues, and in one case, we actually had one researcher who unfortunately passed, there were some changes to the final selection. So the final selection of researchers were the Bahamas, Barbados, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago. So we ended up with 8 countries instead of 10. We dropped Montserrat and Turks and Caicos and brought in Suriname. The researchers carried out their studies over a period of 5 months, about so. And in the end, we were lucky to have a really strong group of researchers for the 8 countries. But because of the difficulties in sourcing researchers in some countries, you can imagine that not every researcher was on the same timeline. So that brought an additional challenge. The research was also extended to include a study by the ACM on the feasibility of a regional trusted news network, which I mentioned earlier. This study was compiled using survey responses from media professionals within the region. And once again, in terms of human resources, we had the difficulty in getting people to respond and to do so on time, which I'm sure we've all experienced with surveys. Funding, of course, brought its own limitations and challenges. While we are happy with the results of the survey and how much was accomplished, it certainly could have been an even bigger and better research. For example, with the feasibility study, we thought this study would have benefited from, for instance, direct calls to some of the respondents. So for instance, using a landline or a mobile phone. But I'm sure you can imagine how expensive it would be to not only call 30 to 50 people across the Caribbean, but to have to spend significant time on the phone with them to conduct a survey. So we were limited in that way in implementing that aspect of the research. Luckily, this is where strong partnerships and knowledgeable facilitators come in handy. They're really able to pull from their own resources and connections to help us pivot, and they have the regional insights to let you know when, kind of counter losses and maybe try a different approach. And this brings me to what I wish I knew. So, and this was a challenge, another challenge for the research, and it's the information deficit. Ironically, this isn't something that you could know beforehand, and that can only be discovered with time. We had an idea, of course, which was the basis of doing the research to begin with, but you don't really know the true scale of the deficit until you're putting resources into figuring it out. Notably, the situation report emphasizes that more analysis is needed across the region to tackle this information, media literacy, and trust in news media. The researchers were all faced with the difficulty of procuring information on these issues, which were really rarely explored formally in the Caribbean. And this limitation was particularly experienced by those researching smaller countries. And as a result, some of the country reports provided a bit more insight than others. This limitation really just emphasizes the need for national or regional investments in research, particularly in Caribbean countries where existing research is scarce or non-existent. Another thing that helps is remaining transparent. And I think it's really important to recognize where you've fallen short and to be clear in your reports of what your work will offer. So this research wasn't meant to be an end-all of research on these issues, but instead it was meant to provide a snapshot. And I think being transparent about your work's objective, not just for the people who are ultimately reading your report, but also with everyone on your team, including your researchers, it pushes them to keep that transparency in mind as they navigate their work. I think our researchers did an excellent job of both highlighting the issues while reminding readers that there's still the need for deeper analysis. Another thing I'd wish we'd known is that, the little things matter. So for instance, limited technological or financial resources might not always be a major challenge, but they can be a source of frustration and slow things down. For instance, even little things like not having a paid Zoom account or a transcription service or a paid SurveyMonkey account to conduct surveys and analyses can throw a bit of a wrench into your plans. While a free Zoom account can work, you might not have considered that most interviews might go past that 40-minute limit. And so our researchers were either sharing an account that was kindly provided by MIC, or they were ending and then restarting their interviews at the 40-minute mark. The alternative, of course, might be paying for individual Zoom plans, but that just couldn't happen with the budget we were working with. Finally, I wish we'd known just how much we needed to develop a concerted post-project awareness campaign of the research. More could have been done, I think, to share it more broadly, such as with universities, embassies, governments, media organizations, and other stakeholders. And I think we took it for granted how deliberate we would need to be in reaching as wide of an audience as possible. So we need to go beyond our usual advertising and contacts and really dedicate significant resources into pushing the project. Now, what surprised me and gave me a sense of pride, I think one thing that surprised me is hearing how far the research did reach, despite us falling short, in my opinion, of a deliberate awareness campaign. I've heard from our facilitators how the research has guided MIC's work, how it's been shared at ACM's annual General Assembly, how it's been important in the reporting mechanisms of US embassies in Guyana, Jamaica, and Barbados, and how it's made its way to other groups and universities. I've personally been interviewed by the Knight Center for Journalism in the Americas about the research, And even up to last week, PMA was invited on a Belizean TV channel to speak about media literacy because of this project. Honestly, it's a bit mind-blowing at times because you just imagine how much more impactful it could have been if it had just been a bit bigger as well. And it does engender a sense of pride in knowing that we've met our short-term objective of mapping the current developments in media and media literacy in the region, and using this research to lay the foundation for more work in the region. I think it's motivation for us to do more in the region on these issues because clearly there is the need and there is the interest. For instance, though, PMA will be implementing a media literacy project geared towards building the next generation of media literate citizens, which was one of the major identified needs from the research project. So we're already looking at how we can implement what we've learned from the project into future projects. And this project will be implemented in 2024 with support from UNESCO IPDC and the UNESCO Kingston office. Now, lastly, the way forward. The first question is like what we can offer to others who might be interested in replicating this. I think we can offer advice, of course, but we can also offer transparency regarding our own shortcomings and any areas for improvement. We actually conducted a post-research evaluation, and it provided us with lots of insight from our facilitators and 2 of our researchers on what more could have been done, and we'll be taking this into our next project. We're also really happy to offer these insights to those who might wish to adapt, implement, or replicate this initiative. And the second question is how you can contact us. Well, it's really simple. You can just send us an email. We're really quite reachable. You can find all of the information you need about us and what we do on our website, www.publicmediaalliance.org. And you can also find it here on the final slide, which has my email address and how you can reach us on social media. So I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you for your time today. As I said, this research really is more of a snapshot rather than providing a full picture. However, I think the snapshot that was provided gives a really strong impression of what work we need to get done. And especially considering whatever challenges we experience on this project, I'm particularly proud that we were able to produce a report that was effective, relevant, coherent, and impactful. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Desalon. I'm sure we'll be having lots of questions, at the end. And I was really delighted about the sort of legs that the report has grown in terms of the impact it has had, as you mentioned, with the various embassies and other actors, and also great that we'll be working together to advance this project next year, targeting our youth. And as you know, youth make up something like 63% of the population here in the Caribbean. So really important demographic for us to reach. Now, we now go to our next distinguished speaker, Ms. Sonia Gill. Sonia, you have the floor. If her presentation could be brought up. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, and I'll get going while Natalie works out the technical magic in the background by saying, first of all, thank you. It's really important that we do this for ourselves. We don't clap ourselves on the back a lot. I guess because we're so involved in these activities, we recognize all the gaps and where we wish we could have done more. But in this case, I'm really happy that we were able to do that. Natalie, would you like me to share? Just say a quick yes.
I am sharing. You're not seeing it?
That's not the presentation.
Okay.
All right, colleagues, once I get SlideShare going, you should be able to see in presentation mode. All right, so Desalon has opened the batting very well. I'm not going to call you Haley Matthews, little competition, but very good opening knock. So we know what has really placed this topic very high on the agenda, the experience of the past 3 years has reminded us once again how critical media and information literacy is. It's something we paid lip service to in the past, but we are now seeing it as a fundamental requirement for modern citizenship. I think of the UN statement in 2021 that 130 countries signed on to, including Dutch and English Caribbean countries, at the time of the COVID-19 crisis, where it was, and I quote, confirmed the key role of free, independent, responsible, and pluralistic media to enhance transparency, accountability, and trust. The CBU took strong note of what was happening, and by August 2021, at its 52nd Annual General Assembly, the union issued a statement calling for a strong effort to counter the current unleashing of unverified information, mainly through social media channels. The union said there, and I quote, and you can see it on screen, well-researched information from credible sources that can help contain the spread of COVID-19 and guide people on best practices in the pandemic is being ignored in deference to other outlandish claims. So we put our money where our mouth is, and we also get generous support from partners such as UNESCO. And by early 2022, CBU was on its way to a focused, Caribbean-relevant capacity building in this much-needed area. It was launched on World Press Freedom Day, no better day. And in the design, we highlighted sustainability, not just training of individuals. We've been doing that for decades in the Caribbean. From the launch of the CBU in 1970, there have been workshops and there have been all kinds of learning opportunities. But along with that, which is critical, we also looked at how can we leave the institutions with which these professionals are currently associated or to which they will find themselves with tools that could be applied by anyone who is taking on the critical roles of either creating content or gatekeeping content. And we know that's a multiplicity of roles within the modern media landscape, not just journalists. The project was able to achieve a number of things. It overcame challenges associated with distance, and Desalon gave us some real insights on that. It also had to work with the challenge of Zoom fatigue, of competing priorities, of staff turnover. But we still had some very significant primary outputs. Again, we recognize that to build in this area, you need to be evidence-based. Anecdotes are not enough. So we began with the survey, which provided a baseline on the knowledge and familiarity with concepts and techniques by some media professionals in the participating organizations. And we also took the approach that those implementing the tools need to be fundamentally part of the process of creating them. So yes, there are policies developed, but even the framework for the policies was a part of the learning experience. And we wanted to ensure that the policies were not going to be seen purely as top-down edicts from CEOs, or just as badly, imported from external contexts. We also sought, and serendipity struck, we had some additional partnerships. And I think this is another lesson learned from this. Be open to partnerships. Desalon already spoke about the fact that these two projects, working from different approaches, but in a common area, actually came together physically in Tobago in August of 2022, where we delivered the executives and you delivered the program to engage with them. And I do believe it was a very successful event on any objective indicator. we also did support at the micro level. Because we were going to Tobago for the assembly, we were contacted by the Tobago Library, and they asked, could we be a part of their summer camp program? And again, there was national exposure through a local activity on media and information literacy. And it was also an opportunity for the media professionals who had been engaging in this capacity building to sort of share the knowledge at a different level. And again, the experience was, by all reports and by full indicators, a very successful one. The other aspect that we engaged in after the formal end of the project was we incentivized, we popularized, and we incorporated media and information literacy into the CBU's annual awards. The 34th edition actually had categories on advancing media and information literacy, and we saw very strong interest. We had a total of 20 entries in print, television, radio, and digital media from Belize, Cuba, Guyana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago. So let me just wrap up here by saying, here are a few recommendations from my perspective based on the lessons learned. Media and information literacy is not a standalone area. When it was new, when we were unaccustomed to it, yes, but we strongly recommend that it be incorporated into all forms of deliberate learning for media professionals, especially those in content creation, visual, audio, and read content. And again, not just journalists. Second recommendation is the need to incentivize focus on the area. The example of the CBU Media Awards shows that you can actually get a high return on a small investment. That many media professionals on their own initiative, creating and publishing material related to media and information literacy, we think is an important part of the process. And again, fragmentation of the efforts, nobody wins. So more collaborations. We know that those who are engaged in mis and disinformation are very deliberate, are throwing a lot of resources at what they're trying to do. To be able to respond to that, we cannot act separately. We really have to be, as actors in the media sector in particular, coming up with joint efforts so that we can demonstrate the truth of the adage that the total is more than the sum of the parts. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll stop sharing now, and I look forward to the questions and comments.
Thank you again, Sonia, for those insights. And I really like what you said about MIL being something which requires very much an all of society approach. It's something where we need all hands on board. And of course, media has a key role to play as a disseminator of awareness, helping to make this area much more visible, and also the importance of having this in all content creation. We now invite Kiran to share with us her insights and experiences. Kiran, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and good morning to all of my colleagues far and wide. It's a privilege to be here. Can I ask that Sonia, if you could stop sharing? Yes.
Working on it.
Okay, so while Sonia works on that, just to let you all know that in 2017, October, Media Institute of the Caribbean and I was there, and so was Wesley. We actually presented at the Meal Conference in Jamaica. That was 6 years ago. 6 years later, almost to the date, I'm back here talking about meal, which shows that our journey has not ended, and we may be very far from it, but we have an urgent situation, and that is because of technology. What the technology is doing is that it is causing the meal sphere to become convoluted. And so I'm going to try to shine a little light on some of the findings. So thank you to Sonia and Desalon, because I think this fits nicely into the lineup. A little bit about MIC, for those of you who may not be aware, we are headquartered in Jamaica with a sub-office in Trinidad, but we touched 27 countries in the Pan-Caribbean region. We've hosted over 300 workshops. That's actually over 400 now. And our network of journalists has crossed the 450 mark. We've also dedicated 3,000 mentorship hours. That's part of our give back as an entity. Our stories on CIJN has reached audiences of over 5 million. And we have a faculty, we call it a roving faculty, because we can't afford to have our own building yet. So over 75 trainers in our network. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because Desalon did an excellent job, but to say that I was involved as one of the lead researchers and editors of the report that was done under PME. So the implementation, and we did have limited resources, and we had to find creative ways to get the information. We had journalists stationed in each of the countries that we looked at, the 8 countries. We did conduct surveys. We did several stakeholder interviews. And when I say stakeholders, I want to point out the fact that it's not just people involved in the academic area. We spoke to people in private sector as well. We spoke to civil society organizations because we needed to get an understanding of where this concept of meal exists in our landscape. We did have desk researchers, so I did have 2 assistants here at the MIC office as well. And what we did was we scoured everything we could have found in the region written on meal to understand how it was being approached. The biggest challenges: deficit of information. There was just a lot of data that you could not find. There were a lack of studies, and there seemed to be nobody who was tackling this issue from a regional perspective. So we were very happy. That kind of motivated many of us because we were happy to say, look, finally, here's a piece of research on this area. We've been talking about it in the region for so long. There is a misconception of what media and information literacy is. A lot of people who were involved in the surveys and the chats that we had, they seem to think from the time you said the phrase that it was something that was quite complicated. And so I think, you know, when we look at this as the proponents of, or the people who are going to propagate, you know, a better understanding of meal, we need to look at how we break this down. But there was a definite misconception of what this was, and there was a lack of programs in the region to address it. So Sonia alluded to the fact, you know, that we need to have a holistic approach, and I want to say that I firmly agree with that. And in the meal model back in 2017, in fact, I had made the point that, you know, we must be innovative to be transformative. And with the dynamics the way it is now, we have to be creative disruptors ourselves, and we have to start thinking out of the box. So we have to look at traditional media, but social media is going to be very important in how we implement these programs. We have to have local, regional, and global levels. I don't think that we've build out our model sufficiently to understand how we tackle the problem and share the resources that we may have across our borders. We have to get the schools and libraries involved. The government has to be involved. Private sector has to be involved. And listen, we know what the world is like today with the young people. And youth have to be involved, and that means perhaps creating brand ambassadors or credible messengers or influencers and using it in a way that helps us to promote a better understanding of meal. The action plan to me spoke volumes and will continue to speak volumes for a long time to come, because this really gave us the 8 points of what all of the researchers saw as needed in a common manner within the region. So developing a regional code of practice on disinformation and misinformation was number 1. And we know that the EU has a code, and we looked at other codes that exist, but I think that this is something we can actively work on in the region. Launching a public awareness campaign on how to identify misinformation and disinformation, and it has to be supported by all stakeholders. And then creating a knowledge hub as an online resource center for regional media practitioners. And I think that that is one where we can see newsrooms and journalists who are already friends across borders being very important and playing a significant role. Investing in technology is necessary to combat misinformation and disinformation. We have to consider too that we are in a region, and during elections, we know how heated things can get. We saw in previous elections, the most recent ones, we saw there were fake websites that were going up. We understand that with AI, we're going to have the deep fake situation. And so we need to be aware of it. So investing in technology is not a bad idea. And along with that, we have to continue being committed to training our region's journalists. So MIC is dedicated to training and development. And so we have started on our side working in the mail space. And as I said, that has been happening since 2017. And we have started to not just spread the messaging of getting people to understand mail through journalists, but through the civil society organizations. They're very important because they are on the ground. They are the ones who interact with the public on a day-to-day basis, and they do a lot of good work. And I think it's very important that they become our messengers. We have to encourage media literacy in the school system. And I'm hoping that there will be a project soon that will be looking at that. I can't reveal too much about it, but I think that we can say that that is going to happen, and MIC will be involved, and I think we will start to see some change. But there has to be something built into the classroom syllabus, because the problem we're having is that there is also a general lack of critical thinking in our classrooms, and that was evident from the research we did. We have to continue to increase and strengthen the collaboration among journalists in the region and our media associations and media houses. And of course, address the issue of big tech and online misinformation and disinformation via an industry-wide approach. And that was detailed even in the UNESCO study that MIC undertook, where we looked at media viability indicators, and mail did come up in that study. And so I think that that is another piece of research that would be very helpful to us all. So what can MIC do? Well, we can help all of you, any of you who wants our support and assistance with leading discussions and roundtables, because we understand the brainstorming, you know, and what it takes. And we've led some of those discussions already, so we can help with that. We can present recommendations and findings to influencers and stakeholders. So if you feel there is a project you want to undertake and you need some assistance for somebody to come in and say, okay, here's what we found and here's what is being recommended, we will help you do that. And we will help with your local associations to replicate or implement what we did. I think that this study was only scratching the surface of what there is for us to drill down on. And of course, working with the localized groups to develop meal campaign strategies is part of our commitment as well. I think that one of the things we need to recognize with meal and where we stand is that conversations have changed, right? We are no longer in one loop. There are several loops, and there's this global conversation prism, and it's very circular. And inside of that circle, all kinds of things are happening, a lot of them not for our good. And so understanding that and the multiple perspectives, we should realize when that is leveraged with technology, if we don't address the male dynamic from a holistic perspective, sharing our resources, having knowledge transfer, using each other's resources, then we are going to be in very bad shape. That is how I see it. And we have to understand, how are we going to help others understand what meal is? We're on a call this morning, you know, and I mean, this is a handful. This is just a spark of what should be existing in terms of people who are interested in this topic. And I feel that that is one of the other things we need to work on as a group. So that is my take on it. I don't want to waste too much time because I'm sure we'll have lots of questions, but I thank you for the opportunity. And if you all need to reach us, there are several ways of reaching us, and our hashtags MIC Investigates, and you can find a lot more info on us from that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kiran, for, I mean, highlighting so many points. I mean, the need for us to really grapple with and appreciate what's going on as far as technological convergence. We see lots of digital transformation projects arising in the region. And of course, we need to make sure that our people have the skills, the attitudes, the competencies, if we're going to really navigate these areas effectively. You also mentioned the whole aspect of media viability and ensuring that media, independent pluralistic media, has the necessary means to, you know, carry forth their work. And again, of course, the importance of networks and collaboration. So again, and those 8 points, I think really lots of meat that we can really work on going forwards as we try to learn, build partnerships, strengthen collaboration across the region. So thank you again. And so now we have the thorn among the roses, or the rose among the thorns, whichever you want to put it. We have our final panelist, Mr. Felipe Chibez Artis, to share with us about MIL cities. Felipe, over to you.
Sorry, Felipe, you're still muted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear friend, Professor Dr. Paul Hector. Thank you so much to Sylvia Basher and, of course, the UNESCO team of Caribbean. Thank you so much to everybody, and, of course, the brilliant audience present here. It's for me a real honor and a real happiness to be here. Let me share some slides. Please, Natalie, you can share for us. Thank you so much. The first slide, please. The first. And in my opinion, you got the last. This is not the presentation. The presentation is other. You can look for the other presentation, please. It's not this presentation. This is not a slide. This slide is not the presentation. Please, you can change. Thank you. It's normal. No problem at all. If you want it, I can share my slides. I am.
Yes, please.
It's okay for you?
Go ahead and share.
Okay, no problem at all. Thank you so much for your kindness. Well, this is my presentation. It's about media and information literacy MIL cities, or the Media and Information Literacy Cities project. I am a professor, associate professor in the University of São Paulo, and UNESCO MIL Alliance focal point of MIL cities. Well, starting points. Hybrid physical and digital reality require a new literacy. See that, man? Other starting point is the United Nations Secretary General Route for Digital Cooperation and your guidelines for the regulation of digital platforms and global conference. This point is very important to understood and the understanding the real situation now we are live. Other points is a starting point is the Internet for Trust. This event was in January of 2023, and in this event discuss many important aspects about Internet and about the use of artificial intelligence. Other starting point are the general for our general vision in this project is the agenda 2030 agenda, but especially the sustainable cities and communities. This objective, the number 11, is essential for our base. Of course, media and information literacy. Media and information literacy now is considered a combined set of skills, but also a practical convergence where journalists, information specialists, libraries, educators, among others, and their related activities meet. Well, this definition is from Muratova Grizzly and Mrs. Kadubak. But what is a Mill Cities? What is the concept? What is the approach Mill City? Mill City or Media and Information Literacy Cities is a framework developed by UNESCO, our urban space that can use artificial intelligence and other new technologies, but with ethics, respect for diversities, organic empowerment of every citizen, educating critical and creative thinking, valuing ecology in a sustainable way, new affectivity, combating misinformation, fake news, deep fakes, and the post-truths. This framework has synergies or includes others such as sustainable cities, smart cities, healthy cities, educational cities, creativity cities, smart, others, and others. The general vision of this project includes the main goal, disseminate and train for the implementation of UNESCO Mill Cities framework around the world, based on integration and cooperation actions, accessible resource and progressive coverage from the local through the regional and international level with the 5 agents of the innovation. The 5 agents are educators, entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs and influencers, policymakers, of course, artists are the soul of the cities, and the last one, but the most important, the simple citizen. Well, these are these 5 main agents of innovation, like I said. But we need to, in this project, we need metrics, indicators, and these metrics and indicators are very important to evaluate the cities. It's not only the problem is not only the resource, financial resource or technological resource. The problem or the challenge is fundamentally is the integration of the indicators, metrics, and the 5 agents of the innovation. We got here the certain indicators: city hall, road, urbanism, urban mobility, integral education, integral health, culture, libraries, association, unions, companies, industries, artificial intelligence, digital channels, of course, citizen security, children, youth, elderly, environment and sustainability, integration, metrics, the last one. But how we implement this initiative? Mill Cities. We are creating at the University of Sao Paulo the International Center for Innovation and Development of Mill Cities, ICMLC, with 4 lines of research. We got 2, a mock Mill Cities course with the Brazilian chapter of UNESCO Mill Alliance. Discipline, we got 2, the discipline Post-Human Diversity, Ethics, and Mill Cities. This discipline is in the University of Sao Paulo, and is a postgraduate program in integration of Latin America. ProLAN is the name. This program trains masters, doctors, and postdoctors in the topic Mill Cities. We got people from all Latin America, and we expect people from the Caribbean. It's very important our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean participate for this program. I invite you to participate. But we got webinar series, we'll take webinar with my dear co-leader and friend and host, Veronica Jarnik from Mongolia. We got 2 other points, Latin America, Canada, and Africa webinars with the platform PAFEME, with the professor Emmanuel Komi-Konako from Togo and Canada. Research about mill cities, we got research, of course, around the world in different countries like Cuba, Brazil, Jamaica, Mozambique, Spain, and others. Events like the International Meeting Culture, Communication, Marketing, and Community, with the principal topics is mill cities. These events are realized in Havana every year, 10 years ago. We developed a system of artificial intelligence for the training mill competence of UNESCO curriculum and teachers. This point is very important too. Coordinate actions with UNESCO Mill Alliance chapters in Latin America and the Caribbean, Asia, Africa, North America, and Europe, as well as between different regions and countries. Creation of the Mill Cities Metrics application, a technological tool to guide the creation of mill cities. Publication of special issues of scientific journals, 10 scientific articles and books of the topic mill cities, with more than 100 authors, in my opinion, from the continents, one of the published by UNESCO. Participation and speakers, co-organizer on organizing in high-level international events, such as Pillar of the Mill Institute in the Autonomous University of Barcelona, World Urban Forum 11 from UM, edition 20, 21, 22, 23 of Global Mill Wave from UNESCO, World Freedom Day from UNESCO, and other events. We have developed our new own methodologies, such as the Mill City system of 13 indicators and 252 metrics and methodology for 20 cultural barriers to communication and 5 dimensions of creativity. We got pilots of mill cities around the world, like in Guarulhos, Brazil, Puebla, Mexico, Havana y Varadero in Cuba, Quilimani, Mozambique, and others. This experience is very important too, a Mill University City initiative. We propose cities that implement the Mill City framework in planned way, which can also be applied in a smaller urban space, neighborhoods, communities, villages, or even university cities. A Mill University City is a university that applies the 13 indicators and metrics of the mill cities on its campus. But we've got different books. These books are about mill cities. For example, the most important of them is From Smart Cities to Mile Cities. This book we edited with Mitsuru Yanase, the full professor Mitsuru Yanase, and me, and got a chapter of many of around 20 authors for 50 countries around the world. But have these books too: Marketing, Communication, Technology, and Innovation in the Mill Cities, in English too. And this is in Spanish. It's important too. of course, published in Spanish. Red de Ciudades 1000 de UNESCO y Agenda 2030. Métricas, educación, comunicación y salud. We got here too other books. This book we published together with UNESCO, UNESCO Mil Alliance, and with the University of São Paulo, of course. We did research about cultural barriers to communication, and in 11 countries. This methodology is recommended by UNESCO too. We implemented the discipline at the University of São Paulo, Diversity, Post-Human and Ethics in the UNESCO Mil Cities Paradigm, the course in the program, like I said. We got to an international research group, Create Concept, Creativity, Innovation, Communication, Marketing, and Cities at the University of São Paulo. We got here people of around the world, and I invite you, of course, to participate and integrate this group. We participate too with 40 experts in this meeting with the Audrey Azoulay, Miss Audrey Azoulay, General Director of UNESCO. And in this meeting, we work together to elaborate a curriculum, UNESCO curriculum competence and values. With this base, we developed before a system, a very important system, intelligent, artificial intelligence system to training competence, this competence from UNESCO, UNESCO curriculum, at teachers from Argentina. We work together with the Professor Sebastian Novominsky and the Professor Efraín Pantaleón. We will do this work with the public defender from Argentina and UNESCO regional UNESCO. And this work was a pilot, but we do this work now in other countries too. We develop and implement this application, Mil City Metrics, together with Mr. Alton Grizzly and Milady Castro. We work together in this program, this application, to evaluate the cities. We got to this program, web TV program, sorry, Mil Womans. The work with the Professor Emmanuel Comiconacou from Canada, Latin America, Caribbean, and Africa. Together with the Professor Jarnik, Veronica Jarnik, like I said, we got this webinar, Mensal webinar about these points. And for our proud and our happiness, this book, Mil Cities, from Smart Cities to Mil Cities, was translated to Arabian, to Italian and Arabian. We meet weekly webinars about Mil Cities with my students too. We work together, of course, to UNESCO Caribbean. We got a partnership with the Secretariat of Justice of the State of São Paulo about Mil Cities. We offer every year our aspirant to Mil Cities in this event, International Meeting, Culture, Communication, Marketing, and Community. This event we do in Havana, Cuba every year. We got pilots, like I said, in different parts of the world. For example, in Guarulhos, in Brazil, Quilimane, Mozambique, and other countries. Participate, like I said, the World Urban Forum from UN, a very important event. We participate in this event with the Mr. Tafik Jelassi Rafik Jelassi is the director of communication of UNESCO from the general quarter. Ambo, this event, like I said, very important event for us. The principal point of the discussion in this event is about Mercedes. Main goals at the future. In the next year, 7 years, by 2030, and of the SDGs, we must have certified fully operational Mercedes in all regions of the world and case studies. This aspect, this main goal is from Alton Grizzly. She said about it. But finally, my conclusions. Mercedes today is a network of colleagues and more than 100 institutions from all over the world participate, such as the University of Sao Paulo, University of the Pacific in the United States, and Autonomous University of Barcelona in Spain, and others. Today, we have more than 20 cities from 5 continents that carry out Mercedes actions around the world. For example, Brazil, Jamaica, Cuba, Mexico, and other cities, Canada, Togo, Kenya, Jordan, Mozambique, Spain, among others. Our team developed around 2 webinars per month of the topic Mercedes with experts from different countries. We work to around webinars in 3 years. And this together with my colleagues Veronica and Emmanuel Comiconaco. We have published 4 books on Mercedes together with more than 80 experts from all over the world, as well as numerous promotional and scientific articles. We work to create the University Cities Network 2. We are creating at the University of Sao Paulo the International Center for Innovation and Development of Mercedes. We work together with many partners like PAFEME, business professional women, Mercedes and MIL approach helps to transcend cultural barriers to communication. Other conclusion is, for sustainability, is necessary to educate in a skill related to critical thinking and creativity thinking. We need to share this knowledge with networks of the 5 agents of innovation, like I said. Our texts are now in Spanish, English, Italian, Portuguese, and Arabic. Summarizing, to promote prosperity in the world, truth and entrepreneurial education seems to be necessary to Mercedes approach. And finally, the words of Ms. Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO, on the occasion of World Press Freedom. UNESCO has implemented the Windhoek Summary 30 Declaration by promoting new transparency principles for online platforms, conducting research on sustainable business models for the media, and paying particular attention to media and information literacy in education system. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Felipe. And I think building on what we've seen earlier, we see how the growing convergence between the digital and also the physical spaces. Here now you're positioning the concept of MIL within the context of cities, and you've also shown how this is linked to a whole range of international action plans. For example, the digital competency framework, digital cooperation framework of the UN Secretary General, and of course the SDGs. So really lots of opportunities here. I don't know if in the future we might want to think of MIL Islands, for localizing it to the Caribbean. But I now turn over to Sylvia, who will now handle the Q&A session. I see we're a bit behind in terms of time, but please do bear with us. Thank you. Sylvia, over to you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Really was so interesting to listen and to know what each of one are organizing it's really amazing. One point I found in common is the importance of partnership to build networks. Each of one, Desilon, Sonia, Kieran, Felipe, all of you talk about the powerful of networks, partnership. And I would like to know how can you promote this not only in the as a new challenge, let's say. You talk to us how you did until now. Which is the next step? Who want to answer this? And to bring what Felipe said just now, Alton Dream certified fully operated mill city in 2030. Well, what is our dream? Because we go after we go looking for our dream. So which can be our next dream? And also, just a minute, if somebody want to ask something, please can write from the audience, can write in the question and answers space.
Well,
Okay.
I can ask, I can respond.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, dear Sylvia, for your answer. In my opinion, we got many new challenges with about Mill Cities. Mill Cities is innovation in the mill approach, and we got and we need a new partnerships. We need a new researchers, a new professor, a new activists together with us to transform and to build a new mill cities. Like Alton Grizzly said, we need the form to integrate the effort of the 5 agents of the innovation. Policymakers, educators, artists, entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs, and influencers, and of course, the simple citizens. We need to, the new politics, and politicians. And we need the organization for all this. That's my opinion.
Thank you. What's
Thanks,
the
Sylvia.
challenge for you, Sonia? You said nobody win in the isolation. You didn't
Very
say
much
with these
so.
words, but I wrote this idea.
It's a very good summary. I think one comment, one offer. One comment, the partnerships that we have engaged in around this particular topic of media and information literacy have arisen because we have partnerships in other areas. For example, Public Media Alliance has been an amazing supporter to and partner with CBU over the years. Well, Kieran is tired of me reaching out to media and information, the MIC and ACM as well throughout its history has also been a strong partner with CBU. I think the answer in part to this is when we are engaging with entities such as UNESCO, and I know a lot of the issues arise around available resources. Let's be quite frank about it. We need to utilize UNESCO as a partner that can help us to leverage additional resources rather than going directly to UNESCO and say, divvy up the resources among us. I really do think that that is an approach that would be helpful. We also need to make sure that in approaching entities that can support the work that we're doing, that we are almost forced to say, and in doing this, either during implementation or post-implementation, here are the designated partners. I think that should now be a requirement for how we do the work. Right now, we're not always required to do so. I think it needs to become mandatory. And the offer I'm going to make is that the resources that have been generated by the projects by our partners in today's session, as well as others in the recent past, CBU is quite willing, in fact, eager to ensure that those are part of the arsenal of tools available to its institutions who are grappling with these issues on a daily basis. And therefore, we can serve as sort of that one-stop shop that says resources in these different areas affecting media operation, management, production, and all of these relevant aspects of the media and information literacy issue. Here is how we can make sure that the institutions are aware of them and probably even engaging with the originating organizations to get further information and clarification as needed. So that's my contribution.
And
Thank you
if
so much, Kieran.
Yeah, if I could add to that, I think, you know, the mistake that we've been making is that we look at mail as an issue, but it's an entity. And I think we need to look at this as, I'm putting on my business hat here, but I think you always need to look at this as a business model that we're creating, where you need to look at all of the partners involved, understand the strengths and weaknesses of each, and then say, okay, based on this, what is the strategic coordination that is needed? What are the strategic initiatives, right? What are the deliverables out of this? And how are each of our partners going to act in this space synergistically, because we're all on the same page. So think of it as an octopus almost. And here is UNESCO, and here are the tentacles, and this is being executed, right? But we're all feeding back into one another. And then how do we measure and evaluate this to be able to have sustainable and meaningful outcomes? I mean, having been on this journey, you know, and working in this space since 2017, you know, you tend to see where the little gaps are. And I think, Sylvia, under your stewardship, I see that there is now, I'm thinking of you as a champion. All right, forgive me for that. But following our discussion, we've not had, and knowing the last 6 years, we've not had a champion, okay, to get this going in the region. And so I think that we finally have an opportunity here after 6 years of talking to have somebody champion this and look at this strategically to implement the coordination to help us get to where we're going. And I think that, you know, all of us here have a strength. I also think that one of the good things is that we have a broader vision. Our vision is to make this a place where we are all proud to be part of and to know that we're doing something that will transform the lives of everyone around us ultimately. And if we know that's the big vision, then being part of what you're championing becomes so much easier.
Yes, because it's not one champion, we are a team. So that's the huge challenge. I don't know, Desilon, if you want to bring some ideas of this. If not, I have one question. And after, if you agree, Paul, we can invite the panelists to ask each other, because I guess it's very interesting to ask their own questions. I'm very interested to know, how do you think the artificial intelligence, basically the generative and artificial intelligence, can impact in MIL? Desilon, or if somebody else want to answer, or nobody?
Yes. I can talk about it because we got research about it. It's very important, this point, artificial intelligence today. Artificial intelligence together, of course, with the or media and information literacy approach is a new vision of the education, of course, and a new vision of the cities. And we got here a new space to research and a new space to applicate. But it's very, my advice is necessary work together, especially scientists scientists from social area and scientists of the numbers from the data science. It's necessary to work together. That's my advice. And we need practice advice. We need not only test, only speech. No. It's necessary to do practice research. We do that with international team, and the results are here. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody else want to answer this, or somebody want to ask something to somebody?
Well, I wanted to come back to this artificial intelligence, because that is good and bad, right? And I want to make sure I say that, because in as much as we say that it can be very helpful, in many ways, if we want to talk about meal and what we have to do, we need to educate people, right, on what are the disadvantages of it also. Because we're seeing now, and I alluded to this with things like deep fakes, right? A normal person will not be able to tell the difference. It will, a political party can now start with AI, and you'll never know that they're not real people, right? AI is reading the news to you now. It's being tested in several countries in the world. And if people are looking for information, they can't tell. So I think having a proper policy framework, and I think that this has to be looked at from an industry perspective in collaboration with government and regulatory bodies in collaboration. I don't think that it has to be government and regulatory only. It must be the stakeholders in the media who are the owners, the managers, the press associations need to have some kind of a framework for it. But more than that, we need to ensure we create awareness, in the wider society. And I feel that we do a really bad job of that as media. We're very good at lots of things, but when it comes to doing things that helps us and continues to help, things that can help us build trust and rebuild it in news media with facts and what is truth, we don't do a great job. So I think that whenever we talk about education, and especially in the sphere of AI, let's think of policy framework, but let's think of distributing that information to the masses for them to understand what is being stated and how it's best to be critical of the information coming at them.
If I could just
Can
very
I
quickly
just jump
add
in?
to-
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, Paul.
Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to pick up on the point about AI, and just to mention that one of the, again, of course, this is an area which is very much on our radar. Here at the international level, UNESCO has developed something called the Recommendation on the Ethics of Artificial Intelligence. And here within the Caribbean, we're also moving forward with something which we're calling the Caribbean Artificial Intelligence Policy Roadmap for the Caribbean. This is actually work which began in 2021. It became dormant, and now since the increased public interest in large language models, so ChatGPT, the efforts by various countries to advance on digital transformation as part of their national strategies. We've seen also we're now in the sort of post-COVID phase, and of course, COVID helped to accelerate the uptake of digital technologies. So against this sort of backdrop, we're now doing this. I will put into the chat a survey, which I invite as many of you to fill out and also to share with your networks, which will help to inform this study. At the end of this month, the end of next month, November, we're hoping to have a number of town hall meetings. We will be sharing within the next 2 weeks a number of documents, and which we will be inviting, as you said, a wide range of stakeholders to comment on: youth, policymakers, researchers, practitioners, regular citizens, educators, people in tourism, in healthcare, because again, AI is something which really impacts everyone. I stop here. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I guess everybody is waiting just now from your new reports and information. I guess we are going to finish, but really I would like to know if you want to ask something to each other of the panelists.
I think Desalon had a comment to make.
Yeah, a comment that I will also use as a question then. I think when we speak a lot about AI, we speak about how we can educate the masses, maybe even educate stakeholders like journalists and educators. But I think we also need to start questioning if we ourselves are also well equipped. Like, are we keeping on top of the latest technology? Do we understand deep fakes? Do we understand how content is generated? Do we have the media literacy training? And are we keeping ourselves constantly up to date with that training? So I guess my question then leads into, is there any way, or do any of the other organizations offer any kind of resources that, for instance, that I could share with my team members in PMA to let them know what else is happening and how they can keep themselves protected and updated and well equipped? So I guess, Felipe, you might be with your MIL cities might have a lot of resources that we can draw on.
We can't. Desalon, nice to meet you again. Of course, Desalon, we need to grow together in this direction, and we meet in other moments to talk about it. What do you think?
That's great. I'm perfectly happy with that. I'll definitely be in contact. I've been making notes, and there's so many things I'd like to follow up with you.
But I invite you to participate with us in this project. It's fascinating.
Great, thank you.
Here somebody is writing, Teresa, she's saying in our chat, actually UNESCO is working on the development of a route sheet of politics, on artificial intelligence for the Caribbean. They to inform about it. They are organizing research and would like to have the support to come to write on it, to fill it, and to share it. Then you can look about it in our chat. Thank you, Teresa.
Sorry to jump in again.
And here is the Paul wrote here, yes.
Sorry to jump in again. I've also just shared in the chat a document. It's called Reporting on Artificial Intelligence. It's a handbook for media to help them in terms of, well, raising their own awareness about AI and other technologies, and also in terms of some guidance in terms of reporting on it. There's also other work which UNESCO has been doing. For example, targeting judicial operators, so judges, prosecutors, lawyers, etc. Again, we heard about deep fakes. Again, AI, it's also transforming the whole issue around the admissibility of electronic evidence. We also have the rise of things like electronic courts. So again, whole new areas which are coming into play. I must apologize. I've just been notified that there is another meeting that we have, which will start, was scheduled to start at 11 a.m. and for which they will need our Zoom for the Zoom account. I've been able to agree with them that they can start at 11:05. So that means we have about 3 minutes to sort of wrap up. So perhaps if there are any sort of last words from panelists, Sylvia, back over to you. You can guide the closing.
Yes, you have less than 1 minute each one. So think very carefully your idea, just one idea.
All right, 30 seconds.
Sonia?
I want to re-emphasize the point about media and information literacy is not a standalone. It is it is an aspect of citizens' tools. Yes, it's very specific to media sector in its impact, it is about our product, our content, that we need people to be literate. But let us not hive it off. Let us not fragment the efforts. Let us really think about it holistically. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Desilon? Oh, Kiran. Kiran, go ahead.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say that, I think that today gives us a lot of hope for the direction in which MIL will go, but because it shows that all of us want to work collectively to get this done. I think that it will take those of us who are on the call today to become more firmly interested, following those links, giving feedback, filling out the survey, because we can't wait for somebody else to do it. It is a situation that is dire because we have the whole misinformation and disinformation paradigm that we're confronting. And we need to recognize that this actually, if we don't address this situation properly, you could look at some fault lines in our democracies. And I think we need to keep that big picture in front of us to be able to work on this collectively and to say, you know what, I'm going to be the one to make the change. So I encourage everyone to do that. And when we call on you to get your feedback and to get your support, I hope that everybody here will contribute. And I hope that this message will ripple so that globally we'll have the change that we do want to see. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you,
very
Kiran. Desilon?
Yeah, very quickly, because I'm looking at time, I'll just say I'm really happy that we're here today. I think it's a really great reminder that we need to collaborate more. I mean, I've learned things that I didn't know about before. For instance, from Felipe's work, I know what CBU does, but I still learn something. So I think it's really important that we have these discussions more frequently and that we don't underestimate how impactful the work we do. Even if we think, oh, it's just a little survey or it's a little report, I think it's good that you still put it out there because someone somewhere might find it extremely useful to the work that they do. So that's it for me.
Thank you very much. And Felipe, and at least you, Paul.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sylvia. Thank you so much to all. Every year we got the International Meeting Culture, Communication, Marketing, and Community. The next event will be in January of 2024. I invite you, all of you, to participate in this event. There will be in Havana, Cuba. For us, it's a real honor to discuss, to debate all these topics in this event. That's my last word. And of course, too, if you wanted to participate at the course of the Latin American Program of Integration at the University of São Paulo, all of you are invited to this. Thank you so much for your knowledge, for your presence, and for share your experience and knowledge with us. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Felipe. And Paul, it's your time.
Well, just to re-echo what one of our panelists said, in many ways we are still scratching the surface, and that's very good. It's something that as pioneers we need to do, and this conversation clearly is not finished. There's a lot more to discuss. So we also have other champions that we need to identify, find. We need to evangelize, spread the word, and it's really good that we've already found each other. There's always unity in strength. There's a saying, if you want to go far, let's go together. And I really count on your continued support in the coming days, weeks ahead. We've heard about that 2030 challenge, and I'm sure we can come up with other challenges and metrics that we can use as yardsticks for both motivating our work and also assessing the impact that media and information literacy can have within our respective countries as we move towards achieving all of these various development goals, whether at the national, regional, or international level. And so thank you, everyone. Sylvia, anything else you might want to add? Oh, you're muted.
I was
Yeah.
trying to know if you was listening me, but as you said,
Oh,
I consider this conversation is just beginning. So congrats for all your job, for all your effort and your outcomes that really are amazing. Thank you.
So-
Thank you, Paul, for organizing this, for being so commitment with this MIL challenge that for me is the key for a really democratic, as Kiran said, citizenship.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone, and I wish you all a very good and fruitful day. And let's keep the conversation alive, and let's keep connecting. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right then. Yeah.